Welcome to Mental Playbook, the podcast. In this episode, I get the privilege to talk to Dr. Russ Reinbold, an ultramarathoner, as well as an ER doctor and author of Pursuit of Extreme Greatness. To
Mhm.
share with our listeners, can you describe what ultramarathons are?
Yes. Hey, Malia, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm a big fan of your dad, and he's told me some things about you. So it's cool to see you just taking off and becoming a total stud. So an ultra marathon is any running race longer than a marathon. And a marathon is 26 miles. So the standard, well, basically 50 kilometers or 31 miles is kind of the starting point, but it can be any distance. It can be an odd number, or it can be 50K, 50 mile, 100K, 100 mile, 200 mile, 300 mile, or all the way up to whatever. So it's an ultra marathon. So anything longer than a marathon.
Nice. It's funny. So I just
Mhm.
went to Greece, and in Athens,
Oh,
I learned about Phidippides, the ancient Greek, was it message carrier, and
yes.
how he would deliver messages, and he ran 26 miles from the town marathon to Athens. So it's
Mhm.
interesting where marathons originated from, and the whole how it evolved, and now an ultra marathon is, like you said, more than 26 miles, which is
Yeah,
pretty insane.
it is. It is.
So could you share what sparked your interest in becoming an ultramarathoner?
Well, I've always been fascinated in the human body. Even when I was a teenager, I thought it was so cool. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. And so I started off by doing triathlons. I was, really skinny. I talk about this in my book, by the way, but I was super small, super skinny. And as kids hit puberty, I was really small. So basically was forced into the non-contact sports like running and swimming. So I excelled in running initially, and that was the spark that just got me going kind of down the endurance path. And then there happened to be a triathlon in my hometown that I did, and I, as a 15-year-old, and I did really, really well. And so I just, when something comes easy or when somebody does well on something, they're more likely to stick with it and continue doing that. And I did. So ended up doing triathlons for like 25 years. And then, but it was all based in running because that was kind of my first love.
Mhm.
And so a friend said, "Hey, Russ, why don't you try an ultra marathon?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, not really. I'm good. I'm good." And they persisted in asking me, and I said, "Sure, I'll go for it." So I did. I did a 50-kilometer race, and I did really well, and I really enjoyed being out on the trails, not on the road, in the city and all the hustle bustle.
Yeah.
And it just really was cool, and I did well, and I enjoyed it. So I just went longer and farther and harder and all that, and now I'm doing some pretty extreme stuff.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
impressive.
thank
Are
you.
ultra marathons, are you running the whole time, or is there also some walking involved?
Well, that's the dirty secret about the really long distance about ultras is that it's almost all walking. And I'm
Mhm.
embarrassed to say, the longer it is, the more you pretty much have to walk
Yeah.
because it's so long. I mean, there are even the top guys can't run 200 miles.
Yeah.
They got to walk. And plus, most ultras, at least the ones that I do, are in extremely challenging conditions on trails or, in the snow or in the desert where it's hot, and you've got to pace yourself. And often you carry a backpack with your provisions, or I tow a sled sometimes through snow. So it's a very, very fast-paced walk that's a lot of people can't keep up. Um, you know, but so yeah, there's a lot of walking, but the shorter the distance, like 50K, 50 mile, 100 miles, yes, then that's almost all running. But when you get above 100 miles, then there's a lot of walking.
Mm. So your fascination with the human body, did that also interest you to go into medicine?
Absolutely. Yeah, they were hand in hand. I started off, I had a bachelor's degree in physiology, knowing that I wanted to study exercise physiology because I've always been interested in sports, at least from the age of 15 on. And so I thought, first of all, the human body is really cool, but then when it exercises, when it gets into performance and challenging the body physically, that I was even more interested in that. So that's I then got a master's degree in exercise physiology, and then that was the foundation for going into medicine. And it's just to this day, I still am. The more I learn, the more I want to learn, because I just continue to be just amazed by how complex and efficient the body is, the body and the mind,
Yeah.
both, and they're hand in hand. And perhaps we can talk about that later.
Yes, I'd love to. I'm curious to know how you balance your job as an ER doctor as well as your dedication to sports as an ultramarathoner.
Well, it's a challenge, definitely. It's very challenging. Um, there's a silly saying about ER doctors that we, work hard and play hard, and that is really true because emergency medicine is not for everybody. We're kind of the cowboys of medicine. We think we're invincible. We think we can save every person's life. Of course, we can't, but we think we can. We're very confident and, kind of live right on the edge. A lot of us, or I say most of us, at least the ones that I know and the ones that I hang out with. So, so I try to shut it off when I'm, done working. I try to like shut off my doctor
Hmm.
persona, whatever it is, and I kind of cope with the stresses of being a doctor by running and being in fitness. And I just absolutely love being out in the woods. I love rivers, trees, mountains, and like burbling, brooks and things like that while exercising. And so I don't know if it's therapy or if it's medicine or what, but that's kind of my happy place is being out there exercising in nature.
Yeah, I like that. So you've
Mhm.
accomplished many ultra marathons, including the Yukon Arctic Ultra, which I really want
Yes.
to talk about. So the Yukon Arctic Ultra is known as the coldest and toughest ultra. So during this 430-mile journey, you faced extremely um, cold conditions, temperatures as low as -46 degrees. Can you
Yes.
describe what that whole experience was like?
Well, as silly as it seems, as it sounds, it's actually more so mentally demanding, far more mentally demanding than it is physically demanding, because we go at such a low intensity, but for a ridiculously long time
Yes.
that one's fitness doesn't really carry us. Our physical fitness doesn't carry us. It's the mental fitness, the ability to just endure and just not excuse me, not give up no matter what the conditions are. So I forgot what the question was, but it's really hard. It's really hard. But the cold takes it to a whole nother level because every task, even the littlest of tasks, are very, very difficult. For example, opening up the package of a power bar is virtually impossible because it's so cold that we have at least two layers of gloves or mittens on.
Yeah.
And if you take off the outer layer, you still have the liner gloves that are made out of thin wool. You still don't have the dexterity to rip open the package. And then when you do get the power bar, it's frozen solid like a true brick, and you can actually chip your teeth. So you have to break it up into small pieces ahead of time, kind of crack it, and then you have to keep it up against your body to keep it soft. But you can't carry all your food up against your body. So it's just very difficult. Going to the bathroom. I know this doesn't sound very nice, but unzipping your pants to get down to business is really hard.
Oh,
Opening your sleeping bag to lay down is really hard. You got to deal with the zippers and things like that. And you got to crawl yourself in after you take your shoes off, and you got to find a place to keep your boots so that they don't get covered with snow while you're sleeping. And then getting out of the sleeping bag when it's time to wake up is torture, absolutely torture, because you're all cozy in your sleeping bag when it's ridiculously cold out, and then you have to do the opposite. You have to put your clothes back on without your gloves, because you got to be able to tie your boots and all that stuff. So it's just difficulty after difficulty after difficulty, just nonstop. And then the terrain, and then getting tight muscles or fighting off the sleep monster. We want to sleep, but you can't. You got to keep going.
mhm.
So it's very hard. It's very
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, talking about, mental health, did your mental well-being ever keep you from going? Like, were there ever times where you had to stop during an ultra marathon?
Absolutely. I'm at peace with it now, but a couple years ago I was not. When I had to tell people that I've not finished the 300-mile distance of this race 5 times. But I finished the 430 mile. I did finish that. So,
Hey.
that kind of makes up for not having finished the 300 mile. But yes, the very first time I didn't finish because I got spooked by the cold, to be perfectly honest. I think 86 miles in, and I hadn't slept and I hadn't eaten, I hadn't drank, and I was having hallucinations, and the cold was really just kind of closing in on me. My fingers were getting tingly. I was losing sensation. And I thought, my gosh, I'm not even a third of the mile of the way into the race. And I just basically quit. I didn't have the mental tools that I have now. Um, and I gave up. I hit the emergency rescue button on my GPS tracker, and I was picked up by snowmobile and took the ride of shame to the exit point. But yeah, so I've definitely, you know, it's very difficult, and mentally I did give up that first year, and then I didn't finish further years because of technical reasons. But also another year, I did give up again. I just was not into it. I didn't have the right mindset. I was just negative, 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 and I just couldn't, pull myself out of this deep, deep hole that I had sunken into.
Yeah. So talking about mental challenges, what is your mental playbook that keeps you going?
Well, that's funny you ask. So I refer people to my book because it's just such an excellent summary. It's nice and concise. It's only about 100 pages. It's a you can read it in like two sittings. At least that's what most people tell me. And I rely on four main principles. There's tons of virtues and principles out there that are important for success in any aspect of one's life. But for me, I've narrowed it down to four main principles, and I call it the P2D2 method. And that's these four pillars that I build everything upon. And P2 stands for patience and persistence, and D2 stands for dedication and discipline. So those four virtues, to me, work. They work very well for me. If I'm patient when dealing with a task, let the process play out. Don't try to rush time.
Right.
Um, you can't change time. You can only change your perception of time. That's tremendously valuable. Persistence, obviously, just don't give up. Just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And then dedication, I talk about the importance of dedication, and that is serving others, being altruistic. So, doing a silly 430-mile race in ridiculous conditions, why would somebody choose to do that? Well, I do it because of the challenge, but also I know that I serve as an inspiration to other people. And I know that they grow as a result of my suffering, basically. And I often choose a charity in my races so that people can donate money to a charity that I select in doing the race. So, and then discipline. Discipline to me is probably the most important principle that I rely upon, and that is got to make good choices, got to make sacrifices, um, and just do the right thing. So those four principles to me, when I employ that mindset that is based upon all those four principles, I feel as if I'm invincible. I really do. And since I kind of put all that on paper and just thought about all that over and over and over again, I realized how successful of a formula it is. So
Yeah.
that's my formula basically.
I really, really like that. I want to know how you train for ultra marathons. Like, what's that process and journey like?
I work out a lot, and I work out really hard, to be honest with you. The older I get, the harder I train, to be honest with you. Just about an hour ago, I finished a 14-mile run. I live in La Jolla, California, and so I run around Mount Soledad. It's not super high, but I do climb up the hill a couple times. I do hot yoga once a week or so. Sometimes I sit in ice baths as well. I do high intensity interval training or HIIT training. I try to get my heart rate as high as possible for the longest period of time possible. I do strength training in my garage. I've got a little gym with dumbbells and a chin up bar, and I hang upside down and do abdominal exercises. Um, this is kind of silly, but I wear a weighted vest a lot in my runs and my workouts, and I even wear my weighted vest around the house just because it's an extra 40 pounds, and it just makes my core strong, and it
Yeah.
helps a lot. this is really embarrassing, but I'm going to let the world know this. But I wear 3 pound ankle weights
Mm.
every shift in my job in the ER. I have them covered up. People can't see them, and it's just extra weight. I'm always looking. Always trying to like sneak away more training.
Yeah.
So I talk about ABT, always be training. For a student, it should be ABS, always be studying.
Yeah.
If you're studying for the bar or any exam or the MCAT or something, ABS, always be studying. But for me, it's basically ABG, always be growing, or ABP, always be pursuing.
Yeah.
So, so that's how I train. But I do run a lot. I run a lot. That's the core. That's the main thing. In fact, once a month or so, when I'm leading up to a big race, I take the train from San Diego up to Los Angeles, and then I
Yeah.
run home.
I was just
It's
gonna ask you about that because I know you would
Yeah,
do that from Los Angeles to San Diego. That's
right. Yeah, 120 miles. I really like that.
yeah. Um, you're talking about charities. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so the charity that I usually select is called DS Action. It's for Down syndrome, people with Down syndrome, and it's a local charity, and it helps people get to doctor's appointments. It helps with counseling. It helps with some of the medical bills. But uh, people with Down syndrome have more health problems than people who don't. And it's just another resource, and I just think it's great. I've also uh, done several races for a charity that helps orphans in Haiti. I've just yeah, lots of a lot of different charities. I'm very big on philanthropy and trying to help other people who really really need it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
Going back to ultra marathons, how has your physical well-being impacted your ability to participate in ultra marathons?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you say the question again?
Yeah, so how has your physical well-being impacted your ability to participate in ultra marathons? Or have you had a injury during a marathon?
Oh, um, well, yes, believe it or not, this is another also kind of ridiculous. I've actually had some heart issues. It seems to be getting better, but my heart rate has been slowing sometimes when I'm at maximal exercise. And I've seen a cardiologist and had it all checked out, but it seems to be going away. But that's pretty much the only health scare that I've had. But you talk to any ultra marathoner, they'll tell you that they've had mechanical issues like ankle, Achilles tendonitis, a knee problem, low back. But in general, I've been blessed with very, very good health. I really take fantastic care of my body. If something comes up, I address it right away. I do a lot of core strengthening and stretching. I do a lot of rotational stretching. I take care of my spine very much, my low back and all that. I do hot yoga. So I don't want to have any chinks in my armor, if you will. I don't want to start a race, with any issues. I have done that, and I've absolutely suffered. I had a really bad case of Achilles bursitis in a really hard race in Alaska, and I showed up at the starting line limping to the starting line,
No.
and people noticed. They, Russ, are you limping? And I was because every step I took, my ankle was just hurting a lot, and it was foolish to start the race, but I did. But the bottom line is, I take very good care of myself. I'm very vigilant when something comes up, and try to nip it in the bud before it becomes a big problem.
Yeah. Does your physical well-being ever impact your mental well-being?
Oh, absolutely. They feed off of each other tremendously, tremendously. I mean, I know it's cliche, but healthy body, healthy mind, same thing. To me, they are so interchangeable. Um, Knowing that I'm physically fit and strong, despite being 59 years old, is very empowering to me, and it helps form the foundation for my mental well-being. Um, and knowing that I'm mentally strong allows me to attack things with a vengeance physically.
Yeah.
So they feed off of each other tremendously. They really do.
Yeah, and how do you stay mentally strong, especially during the long races?
Well, I go back to that silly P2D2 method. You know, um, I've been faced with a lot of challenges, like everybody has, but especially at my age and with all the patients that I've taken care of. I think my patient count is up to about 110,000. That's a lot of patient encounters, and they
Yeah.
can be very, very challenging. All doctors face tremendous challenge, but ER doctors, it's very high stress.
Yeah, I was
So
thinking that.
I try to be patient with every encounter with patients, and with a shift, and with the whole month or a year. I persist. I just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. I'm disciplined. I make good choices on behalf of patients. They might not like what I'm going to do for them, but I feel like it's the right thing to do for them. And that's very important. We don't want patients necessarily to be happy. We want to get them better. So that can be challenging. And in dedication, I'm dedicated to giving my patients the best possible outcome. I really do everything that I can to help them.
Yeah. I want to know, what role does nutrition and recovery play in your regimen for ultramarathons?
Yeah, great question. I try to eat as healthy as I can, but I burn a lot of calories, a lot of calories. So it's very hard to eat 100% healthy. When you're burning, up to 6,000 calories a day, which sometimes I do in my races. But yeah, I eat, lots of fruits, lots of vegetables. I actually, believe it or not, eat more fat than I do carbs. Um, Carbs, I try to avoid, high sugar foods, except at nighttime, because I absolutely love ice cream.
Oh,
It's,
yes.
I mean, several nights a week, I have a big fat bowl of Breyers vanilla ice cream smothered with chocolate, Hershey's chocolate syrup, and then smothered with peanuts on top of that. So, yeah,
It's always nice to treat yourself, huh?
yes, it is. Yes, it
So what or who inspires you to push your limits?
is. Well, not one individual, to be honest with you. It's this is going to sound horrible, but myself, because I don't compete against other people in these races. I don't compete against other doctors in medicine. I don't compete against my friends. I'm competing against myself. And what I mean by that is, I want to be, the saying now is, be the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always striving for improvement. So, that's why my book is called In Pursuit of Extreme Greatness. I
Yeah.
want to reach my ultimate level of extreme greatness. I want you to reach your ultimate extreme level of greatness. I want everybody to reach their personal utopia, the best possible version of themselves.
Right.
So I'm always striving, always striving. I'm always reading, studying. I listen to medical podcasts. I listen to medical articles when I'm running. I study. I train hard. I try to be the best husband I can be. I try to be the best father I can be, best friend. I try to be really nice to people. I tell students, ask me for letters of recommendation often, or they shadow me in the hospital, and they say, "Hey doc, what are some tips that you have, or just general advice?" And I say, "Well, I got a lot of advice to give, but if you want to make it really simple, I boil things down to two silly things, and that is, if you want to be successful, if you want to increase your odds of being successful, focus on two simple things. Number one, work hard,
Yeah.
work really hard. That's no secret. And the other is, be nice to people.
Yeah.
And obviously, you need a ton of other stuff. But if you focus on those two things, somebody's most likely going to be successful if you do those two things. I mean, that's about as simple as it can be for a very complicated long term process.
Yeah, and kindness goes a really long way. Uh,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
so.
Talking about advice, what advice would you give to someone looking to start their journey in endurance sports?
Um, well, the first thing is have fun. You know, um, I know people sign up, they do a 10K. They say, "Oh, I want to beat 50 minutes or something like that," or "I'm going to do it with my friend, and I got to beat my friend." That's a completely wrong mindset. You want to have fun because you want to do it for yourself. And if somebody wants to get fit and they say, "I'm going to start running, but I hate running. Oh, I hate it." I tell them, "Well, don't do it. Why force yourself to do something that you don't like? Pick something that you do like. Just go for a walk, or go to spin class, or go play softball with your kid in the backyard or something like that. Just be active."
Mhm.
So do something that you enjoy. That's number one. That's what I would say.
Yeah. How do you think participating in ultra marathons has impacted your overall outlook on life and wellness?
That's a great question. They're just, I, there's, that's, well, I got so much I want to say. I can't, blah, 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 blah. Ultra marathons to me are just, they're just ripe with life lessons. You have to be patient, persistent, dedicated, and disciplined. But it's hard. Ultra marathons are hard. I mean, being really good at anything is hard.
Yeah.
You know, becoming any doctor, becoming a lawyer, becoming a housekeeper in a hotel. I mean, if you want to be good at it, it's hard. And that's just an example of people pursuing their best.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I really cool. But anyway, in ultras are so hard that you have to delay gratification, delay satisfaction. You have to endure pain, suffering, setbacks, just like life. Life's hard. Life can be
Journey.
really hard for people, even for people who it seems like it's easy. It's hard. And so I tell people, you know, there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. You just got to put in the work to
Yeah.
improve. What I mean, to become rich, you have to let the process play out. You're not gonna. It's unlikely you're gonna win the lottery. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to, you know, be a world famous podcaster like you, it takes time. You know, you got to polish your thing. You got to build a rapport with your guests. You know, you got to publicize and all that. I mean, everything is hard. There are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
And the same thing with ultra marathons. So that's just one life lesson is that if you want to finish a 430-mile race in the Arctic, pulling a sled at 46 degrees below zero, it's hard.
Mhm.
So I take those lessons from my sport, from my hobby, and I apply those to life. And I tell my kids and I tell my friends and family and everybody that the lessons that I've learned from my sport can apply to them as well.
Yeah. It's all about dedication.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, okay, so has your experience as an ultramarathoner influenced your approach to practicing medicine or even just interacting with patients?
Yes. And this might sound kind of cocky. I use the word confident, but I truly feel that I'm invincible. I know I'm not invincible, but I tell myself that I am. And no matter how, excuse my French, shitty a shift is, I take care of some undesirable people who have made very bad choices, or I deal with just overwhelming grief and sadness and delivering bad news to a family or whatever, or a patient, tell them they got cancer or they're in kidney failure and they need to go on dialysis. You know, I feel like I can tolerate almost anything
Yeah.
because I feel like I can tolerate almost un- unbelievable levels of physical pain. So if I can tolerate that anguish, that loneliness, all that, then I can tolerate anything in the emergency department. And it seems to be the case so far. In fact, as I get deeper and longer into my career, I feel like I've become even more invincible,
Yeah.
unbreakable, if you will. And I know that people listening to this might say, "Look at that cocky dude, man. He's what a jerk." I tell myself that, just like an athlete when they go into competition, they don't say, "Oh man, I don't think I'm going to win. I don't think I'm going to place, or I don't even know if I'm going to finish." You can't have that mindset. You have to tell yourself you're going to win. I mean, do you think professional athletes start a game and say, you know what, I'll just play half-ass because we're probably going to lose? Of course not. You have to
Yeah.
have the mindset of positivity and confidence. And that's what I get from my sport that transfers over to me professionally.
Yeah, it's about being mentally and physically strong. And I think
Yes.
that's what you are. My
Yeah.
last question for you. It's a general question, there's no right answer, but I want to know what matters most to you, the destination, the journey, or the company.
Wow, that's a great question. Great question.
Mm.
Um, the journey,
And why is that?
without question, without question. So the company is not that important to me, and I know that sounds kind of harsh, course, I love company. I love to share experiences with those that I love and those that I might not even know. But I spend so much time alone. I'm a traveling doctor now, so I live out of a hotel room basically. I don't live in San Diego. I don't work in San Diego anymore. So I spend a lot of time in hotel rooms or out running training. I'm by myself. In my races, I'm out in the Arctic and there's nobody within a 10-mile radius of me. I feel like I'm the last person on the planet Earth sometimes. So the company is not that important to me. I'm very, very at peace with being by myself. And then, and you talk about the destination. Of course, when I do my races, I want to finish. And during the race, I'm just so focused on that. Oh, how many more miles do I have to go? Oh, I've got 100 miles to go. Oh, I'm never going to finish. I got 50 miles to go. I try not to think about that. The destination, to me is, of course, I'm always, looking at the destination, looking at the finish line, looking at the end of my shift in the emergency room, looking at the last, the end of my 1 week of being away from home. But I try not to really focus that much on the destination. I really don't. But the journey, that to me, that's where it's at. That's the meat and potatoes of the whole process. Is I try to live in the moment. I know that's cliche, but it really is so true. Is
Yeah.
living in the moment, not so much living in the past, not looking to the future too much. You have to do both. But if you enjoy if one enjoys where they are, it's so much more pleasurable. It's the old saying, "Stop and smell the roses." It's so hard to do that sometimes. You just get so wrapped up in the destination that you don't think about where you are at the time. So that's to me, that's way, way more important than the destination and the company.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Reinbold, for joining me on the Mental Playbook. To my listeners, mind strong, game on.
I love it. Thank you for having me.
Of course.